if I'm not mistaken.
Which
Right.
ones?
Hello, everyone. This is Tanya here from Edu TV, and I welcome you all to another episode on Edu TV, where we're going to have a dynamic session on smooth transition from schools to universities. Today's conversation is designed to be interactive, practical, and focusing on what truly matters for students and parents at this crucial stage, especially when the CBSE Class 12 board exam results are going to be out any moment. I'm happy to be joined by two distinguished experts today. We have with us Ms. Melissa Maria, the Associate Director, GCEE at the Global Schools Group, and Ms. Natasha Chopra, the co-founder and director of the Chopras Global. Thank you, both of you, for joining us.
My pleasure, Tanya, and lovely
Thank
to
you,
talk
ma'am.
to you, Miss Natasha.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Let's
Tanya.
discuss.
Sorry, and a big thank you to Melissa as well for being here.
Thank you so much, Ms. Natasha. Let's discuss on the smooth transition from schools to university. My very first question goes, let's discuss it with Ms. Melissa first. Ma'am, what according to you are the top three priorities that you would advise to class 12 students who, in terms of focusing on their final months before they enter into universities, please?
Thank you first, Tanya, for having me. And before I answer this question, I just want to say that every time I sit with students at this stage, I'm really struck by how much they are carrying. The weight of expectations, the comparison with peers, the pressure of feeling like this one moment, defines everything. So, whatever I share today, I wanted to feel like a hand on their shoulder, not another item on your to do list. Dear students, please remember. So, the first thing I'd say is start trusting your own mind, not just your memory, not just your notes, your actual instincts and curiosity. Because the world you're stepping into doesn't just need you to know things, it needs you to wonder about things, question things, connect things in ways that are uniquely yours. So start practicing that now. Read something outside your syllabus. Sit with an idea that doesn't resolve neatly. That habit will serve you far longer than any mark. Tanya, the second thing is, and this is something very close to my heart in my work with young leaders, I want to tell them to get comfortable with imperfection. University is going to be, something that they will learn their first real stumble. A rejection, maybe a difficult professor, a project that falls flat. Students who've only ever succeeded can be blindsided by that. So, therefore, dear students, take that small risk now. Try something you might not have been great at. What you're really building is the muscle to recover, and that muscle matters for life. And Tanya, the last one, you asked me three. So, the third one, I want to tell students to look up from the syllabus and look at the world that they're entering. Understand the industries shifting around you, how AI is changing, which skills hold value, what the next 5 years might actually look like. Of course, not obsessively, just with genuine curiosity. And that awareness, dear students, will give you a kind of groundedness that no grade can. You said students are waiting for their results. Students, we see you. That in between silence can feel unbearable, but I genuinely believe that this window that you have now is a gift if you let that be your gift. Therefore, rest, explore, have these conversations you've been too busy for. You've earned the right, my dear students, to breathe.
Thank you so much, Miss Melissa. Miss Natasha, what do you see? Do you see these priorities aligning with what the universities globally are expecting today?
Um, I mean, whatever Melissa said is very, very well said. Um, so in terms of the question, when we look back, because we see so many students all the time, I'm going to look, just change the question in terms of the framework where what are the areas where the students actually struggle with at times, and the parents then struggle with. I think a lot of it, and this is something that Melissa touched on, is about the management of the student, where I think the student should look upon this as a journey. And that journey has ups, it has downs, it has difficult times, it has wonderful times. And each one is a learning framework, whatever it is, the good and the bad. And I love this line where they say that actually your failure is what actually makes you, because that's how you learn. Now, nobody wants to fail. I don't necessarily mean it like that. But when there are stumbling blocks, that's what you need to train yourself on how to adapt. But coming back to the practicalities, there is so much of a focus on grades. Right from there's such a look, the world is competitive and we have to be competitive. But the parents also focus so much on grades that they forget the other things that make the person wholesome. You need to understand your child. Maybe they're good at other things and they need to explore other things, whether it's sports, whether it's arts, whether it's creativity, whatever it is, you need to make time for all those things. Now, students have changed a lot. Parents have changed a lot. But that focus on that helicopter management is still so much there. I would say that really, the parents need to step back and encourage the child rather than the helicopter management. So parents come to us, they're concerned about the essays. They want to write the essays themselves. I mean, it's very exciting because they think they're going to university, and you really think that they'd rather go, quite frankly, with the child. But it's so much of management that they actually want to write the essays. They want to write the questions. Or the other extreme is they come to, they go to various companies and say that, look, we'll pay you. Can you please write the essay? You're taking away the entire experience of the child and the entire experience of what the child can do. You're undermining their capability if you ask somebody else to write it. What you're saying to the child is, we don't trust you. We don't think you can do a good enough job. So I think in terms of the areas where this transition has to happen, these are the things that really, really stand out for the students and the parents. And then, of course, you have the most obvious one, which is the rankings. People are so focused on rankings, they would rather send the child to a place which is highly ranked rather than which a university which may have the right course and the right skill level that the student is looking for. Everybody's not research oriented. If you are, great, then you can look at the very, very high-ranking research universities. But each child, again, is different, and you need to understand that child. So I think, these are the areas which actually will help this smooth transition if we're able to move away from that single-minded and linear focus on the rankings and the marks and the management, the helicopter management from the parents.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Natasha. You've in fact answered a part of the next question that I wanted to put to you, which
Okay.
was that what are the biggest mistakes do students, the parents make when they prepare for international university admissions? So you've already put in across a few points to us in terms of focusing more on the rankings part and paying for writing the essays on behalf of the child and focusing more on grades. What else do you think are the biggest mistakes they make when they are preparing for international university admissions?
I think the parents are trying to find answers to, very safe and secure answers to a world now that has become very uncertain. With AI coming in, we need to be far more adaptive. And it's not just the parents and the students. Everybody right now is in a state of flux, whether it's the schools, whether it's the universities. Nobody really knows the momentum that's taking place or is going to take place. And I think it's the most difficult scenario that we've ever had. And everybody's facing, whether it's governments, whether it's entrepreneurs, whether it's institutions. So to prepare for this, really speaking, you need to be prepared for the adaptability that everybody talks about. I know it's sort of a word that's used everywhere. But it is important. I'm sure that Melissa would agree because as an institution also, you're having to adapt to what you don't know what you may have to adapt to. So I think it's that thinking away from the certainty. But in terms, the other thing is that when there is so much of a focus on marks, you're not letting your child fully explore themselves. And I think nowadays it's the emotional intelligence and the fact that you need to be able to work with people is critical. So I would really encourage parents to work with their children to help them do volunteering is one example. They also need to see how other people live, how the underprivileged live, how effective they can be for them. And that giving is such an important, that kindness, that giving is such an important um, quality to have and something to develop, help your child develop over the years. Many people have foundations, so they can work with them, but not everybody gets their child. There's sometimes this feeling that the child should not be working, let them enjoy themselves, and so on. But you need to be constructive and help them with volunteering, do internships, let them start early. And not necessarily in your business. Go to other people's business. What if they're interested in law? Go to friends who are lawyers or otherwise apply. There is so much that can be done and used effectively. The travel, go and spend time learning a language. Um, my son, for example, when he was at university, went to a trip in Africa, and he stayed with an orphanage, helping them with sustainability of how to, staying with them, living with them in difficult conditions. But those are the things that actually, now he always says, made him because he was able to do those things. But right from the very young age, let your child be involved in giving. That kindness, that giving is a very important being of the entire journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Melissa, ma'am, you've been interacting with students, more than thousands of students you've interacted with at the school level. So, are you observing similar patterns at the school level? And how early, according to you, should the students start correcting these mistakes?
So I think one of the bigger mistakes is not preparing children for what life looks like, on the outside. There's a lot of silo work that happens. It is individual performance, individual, race that children are running. I think schools need to create an environment that allow for collaboration, that allow for group work, because life outside can never be run alone. When you work into a workplace like we are in now, we need one another as strengths to leverage on each other's strengths rather than, just yourself. So I think as a school, one of the greatest mistakes that generally happens is the ranking within school, wherein you are encouraging children to race alone. If we can set something like group projects, and I'm happy that some of the curricula like the Cambridge or the IB definitely encourage group work, wherein students have to play a equal role. So I think this one mistake, if it can be looked at. Secondly, and I feel this happens very often because sometimes children don't know, they get themselves involved in so many things. They don't anchor on things that are of interest to them and build on that. So I think early on, like Miss Natasha said, allow children to explore. And I mean, fundamentally, it's empathy or kindness, like said. But when children are allowed to explore, they need those little nudges also to move towards areas that they are actually interested in. Like Miss Natasha said, law. Then we do not want children to go all around exploring 10,000 other things, but start either shadowing or meeting up people who are pursuing that. Look up mentors who are pursuing that. And what else is needed with law, right? So you build your environment around that. And of course, everything has to be done in order to see how life becomes better for yourself and for others around you. So every effort that is made to make the environment or make your surrounding better, I think that is what we can focus on. And that mistake that children do, looking inward only towards me, is something we can work towards.
I think
Thank you so
very,
much.
very good points that Melissa, sorry, Tanya, very, very good point that Melissa has made. I have to really credit you for that.
Thank you, Mrs. Dash.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, ma'am. Melissa, ma'am, talking about stress, you rightly pointed out that rankings within schools, this is something a lot of students and parents get stressed about. But how can students effectively manage the academic pressure while they're also preparing for the university applications and the future planning?
We should not look at these things as separate. When we say the child is preparing for university, actually, school has to be such that the child is entrenched in areas that he is moving towards. If for example we start saying that it is going to be academic pressure or stress, the question is, I mean, firstly, stress is not a bad thing, okay? It's not bad. I don't look at it as enemy. It's not our enemy. But the question we have to ask ourselves is that stress energizing me or is it paralyzing me? If that stress is paralyzing me, then I have to tell my students, or the student has to tell themselves, stop, it's your signal to pause now. Okay? You don't need to push harder. What I've seen among children, if they can start working in ways that are their everyday looks like certain non-negotiables, like I will do these things every day, and not wait last minute to be rushing and trying to complete everything. Again, I'm not, as an, again, I said, I'm not sitting here to lecture, but I'm saying that if children do not create rigid timetables, but set for themselves things which are non negotiable. Maybe every day I will have a walk. It is important. I will nap. I will take a nap. It's important. Having sleepless nights is not going to ease any pressure. You need to have this. You need to sleep well. You need to eat well. You need to exercise well. You need to have 1 hour of focused work and not feel guilty that I've done only 1 hour. All these are non negotiables. But the most critical point, Tanya, when I look at university preparation, and I think Miss Natasha spoke about that, it's the essay, right? It's our personal statement. I always advise students, no, your personal statement, your essay cannot be a performance. It is not a performance. It is something that you are talking about, what somebody wants to hear, something that is authentic, something that is real. Write in that something that you tried which didn't work. It doesn't have to be perfect. The reader, and like Miss Natasha said, thousands and thousands of essays admission officers are reading. Can you imagine them reading a perfect scenario? It's not real. So I always tell students, tell your story authentically. What you struggled with, what are the questions that are bothering you that you've not got an answer to yet? Look at some of these things. So suggestion to students, very gentle suggestions. Indulge in a timetable you've set for yourself, not a rigid one. Create one which has everything in it. And of course, your essay, that make it interesting for the reader, not something that is scripted and looks like a perfect performance.
Absolutely, ma'am. Uh, Natasha, ma'am, coming to you, I mean, the Chopras Global has been interacting with many students in 1995, talking about the set balance for students where they have to make a tough choice. How do you feel? How should they balance their passion and the practicality while they select a course and the destination they want to enter to?
A lot of research and good advice. It's about understanding oneself and what you really want to do. All this is actually linked again to the topics we've just touched on, that Melissa's just touched on regarding the pressure and stress and so on. And really speaking, as I said earlier on, it's just a journey, and you are choosing different paths. But what the key thing here is that I think there is sometimes perhaps too much of a focus on the evaluation of the degree rather than the holistic ecosystem where you are developing other things. So you sometimes you may have a passion for something, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the passion is something that is going to be so long term that you're going to have a career in it. I may have a passion for football, but do I really want to make a career out of it? Um, that's something that needs to be worked out, and perhaps with the right talking to people, guidance from counselors, from the school, from independent companies. You need to do a lot more research in that area. But the key thing in all this that we've been discussing is actually about your skills and one of them is the time management. It is such an essential skill. Everything has to happen at, at the right time. That's how life is. Seasons happen at a particular time. So you need to create that time management and not be in a situation where there's procrastination and then you end up adding the pressure and the stress on yourself. So coming back to the question, because it's also interrelated, I think that career guidance is very essential. Now you need to go to a few people to be able to get that, because there can be biases. So you have to make sure that you choose a company that gives you the right experience and not just who are there, a short time. Experience matters a lot. AI is there to give you a lot of information, but what AI cannot give you is the live experiences of what does happen or what has happened or the experience of various, cases that one can study and talk about. So I hope that answers the question you were asking.
It does, ma'am. Absolutely, it does. Melissa, ma'am, Natasha, ma'am mentioned about time management just now. You initially, during the first question, mentioned about looking up from the syllabus and looking at the world. So, what are the other practical steps, according to you, that the students should start taking from from the school level, maybe from grade 9 or 10 onwards, in order to build up confidence and prepare for their first year at the university, especially if we talk about the global environment, please?
Firstly, let me just address this part of what can children do early on. I think at my school, I'm fortunate we start career counseling and university guidance right from grade 8, So we keep exposing children to everything that is available, try and ascertain what their passions are, and then kind of tie the two together. What is your passion? What is a great university for that? But if you're asking me specifically about how to build confidence and, kind of global environment and readiness, I would want to actually say that as far as I'm concerned, confidence for me has never been about certainty. It's not that if I'm 100% sure what I want to do, I'm confident. For me, it is, in my experience working, confident people are those who can genuinely and very comfortably say, I don't know yet, and not
Mhm.
feeling small about it. So, something that I would advise is that to children, to build their confidence with it, go and pick up something that you're really scared to do. And for the next 60 days, just keep doing it. For example, maybe reach out to somebody you admire or share something that you've created. It may not be a perfect piece. It's okay. Or, just apply for something you might not, you don't even think you will get into. Maybe an internship, maybe a shadowing. This whole act of doing something, moving away from your comfort zone, coming out of that, for me, that is the real thing. That is what is going to give children confidence. And believe me, Tanya, no workshop, no masterclass can substitute that lived experience. I think Miss Natasha also spoke about that. Go out there and experience it, whatever scares you. In a global environment, the skill I'd like to point above Anything else is the ability to deeply listen. Listen to a world that is actually completely different from yours. We are so used to being with people who are in our ecosystem. But university outside is full of people who come from different cultures, who come with different perspectives, different contexts. Therefore, it's important that our students learn to listen, learn to experience things that are different from the area and the ecosystem that they are growing up in. Students who thrive are the ones who are curious about other people, not just only about curriculum and about themselves. And we are talking about AI. I always tell students that I think that your generation deserves an answer. Many keep saying that you are in competition with AI and AI is going to take away everything. Boys and girls who are on this call, you are a generation that will decide what AI is used for. Therefore, use it to think more deeply, not to think less. Use it to go further with the ideas that you have and you're genuinely excited about. Of course, curiosity is there, but remember the ethics and the human connection. I think Miss Natasha has spoken about that, and I'm a testament to that. That kindness and empathy underlies anything that we do. So, use this. This is a gift for us, the tool. It's working faster than us, thinking faster than us. But the human connection we can bring. We can teach it what to do for us. So these tools are there, use it, make the most of it, but make sure that your guardrails are there. You're using it underpinned with kindness and empathy. And I think the world is out there for you.
Absolutely correct, ma'am.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it's a beautiful world. And I think you're absolutely right. It's the fear factor that is also setting in for not just, I mean, especially for, the parents in our generations of what's going to happen and so on. But really speaking, there's been many revolutions throughout the world and evolutions, and each time the human has always come on top of it because of our ability to do so. And that should never be questioned. We are able to do many things. And just coming back to the AI, it's something that is now, it's not the future, it is here already. And we have to learn more about it and be able to use it more effectively. The kids nowadays, of course, are at a different level. But look how it's changing the world. At one time, IT and software were the programs to do. And now suddenly, those are the programs not to do because AI itself is coding. So the adaptability of being able to say, well, look, if I can't do this, I can do X, Y, Z. Those skills, and particularly now of the people skills, the team building skills, the skills to be able to communicate effectively are important. So I think people need to do a lot more to do with the skills, the technical skills just are there and have to be there and advanced. But at the same time, the ability to communicate is very, very important. Sometimes people say, and I'd like to, just show you an example. There was, this is something that really I think just stands out. They used to say, what's the point of doing humanities? But if you look at the CEOs of many countries, a survey was done in the UK many, many years ago, but the most successful CEOs were the ones who had done humanities, English literature, philosophy, and so on, because those are the subjects that actually help you read, it helps you write, it breaks down arguments, and you can, juxta them in any position at all. So therefore, it's that ability to communicate which is so effective for your future and your career. And in terms of how the parents can help the students at an early age, is for that profile building. Now, people do it as a very set pattern. But that profile building should happen from very early on, whether they're playing tennis or they're doing blogs because it interests them. It's about the person and the student who is doing many things, but with a focus. Not that they're all over the place, but with a focus. And well, I mean, we, for example, as a company, do profile building for our students, and it can start quite early, but there are people who come in at a very late stage and then want to do it. Then you have to draw in their experience of what they have been doing, and often people don't even realize that they have an experience that they can exhibit and that they can write about and talk about. It's giving them that confidence. And this is where parents come in. If you, and I believe very strongly that if you can bring up a child with confidence, you've done a great job.
Wow, great.
Tanya, I just
Uh,
wanted to add one point here. I
yes.
think, as a school and school system, with the advancement of technology, whether it's your generative AI or whatever it may be, I think the one thing that schools will need to focus on is teaching children discernment, you know, and definitely it can be taught right from wrong. Like I said, as we move along, there'll be guardrails for all of technologies. But if we don't teach children to ascertain what is right and what is wrong and how it has to be used, I think schools will fail in our job. It is not any longer about teaching syllabi, completing syllabi, because that, I mean, you can learn anywhere, anytime now. We've reached that stage. But we've got to spend a lot of time on teaching children the basic values, bring values back in. It's taken a back seat. Basic integrity, respect, all these discernment, I think, is a key thing, discerning things from right from wrong. So while we move forward with technology, I think we need to entrench once again our students and our children in values. And that is what is going to bring that balance eventually.
Coming
Thank
back to this point that you just made, Melissa, when we talk about the values in the school, I believe one of the areas that should really take place in schools is actually civic sense. There is such a lack of it, especially in India, where we see such atrocious behavior. The moment that you come out of your home and come out of your school, and it's not just with the children, it's with the adults. But it's now time that the children are able to teach their parents that, listen, don't throw garbage on the streets. Don't, just honk away. And it's now, so I think if the schools were able to do this as teamwork, getting on a bus, how to behave, or the underground, offering a seat to an elderly, all those kind of things we take for granted when we're out in the West, but at home somehow people forget about it. And those things are coming in a way which is impacting our society, where look at the state we are in. And it's very sad because it can be corrected and very easily if everybody were to participate. The group work is there. So that team building, you're right, has to start at the schools and carry on from there.
That's what we do at our school, always imparting to children that you have to leave the world better than you've received.
Yeah.
It's so important. You take up projects, you do things such that it will make things better, make the world better, make your environment better, make, your, surrounding better. So that is what the intent should be. The intent should never be your self glory. It should never be your victory, but through your work, what can you do to leave something better than what you have received?
Absolutely. And I think, ma'am, we are able to see the change now, especially in the younger kids, because I mean, I've seen it in person. You go to the park with your friends or family, otherwise, you will see maybe elders throwing things away like this, but the kids will not. They will, in fact, ask their parents or their sisters and elder brothers to pick it up and don't throw it like that. So I think the schools are
It's
doing a great
promising.
Indeed, they are.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, both of you. Thank you, Melissa ma'am. Thank you, Miss Natasha, for such an insightful and engaging discussion today. This session clearly highlights that a smooth transition is not accidental. It is the result of informed decisions, early preparation, and definitely the right guidance. And a message to all the students and parents watching us, please focus on clarity, stay proactive, and take the ownership of your own journey. On behalf of EduTV, Thank you everyone for joining us. This is Tanya signing off from EduTV.
Thank you so much and pleasure meeting you, Miss Natasha.
Thank you, Melissa. It was very interesting listening to you and really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you, Tanya and EduTV for making this possible.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.